One of the most popular videos in this channel is my Roman Imperial Denominations episode, where we discuss all of the coins issued during the first imperial monetary standard, created by Augustus, the first Roman emperor. The success of this episode sends me a very clear message. You people want to know what kinds of different denominations are out there. I'll definitely eventually make full episodes on specific niches, like the Republican denominations, the late imperial ones, but today we're going to look at rare denominations, coins that for one reason or another were struck in small numbers, making them unusual or even rare for collectors nowadays. We will look at one example of each of these, see what their value in relation to the more common coins was, and explore a bit of the story of these coins and why they became so rare. Let's go! So before looking at these coins, we need to go on a quick overview of the Roman Imperial Standard. We start at the as, a copper coin that was the base unit for all other units. We then have the fractions of the as, also struck in non-precious metals, the semis, worth half an as, and the quadrants, worth a quarter of an as. Above the as, we have the dupondius, worth 2 asses, and the sestertius, worth 4. We then get to precious metals. For 4 sestertii, or 16 asses, you could get 1 denarius, the standard silver coin. It's important to note that this value, 16 asses to 1 denarius, was not always like that. During the earlier Republican period, 1 denarius was worth 10 asses. That's actually where the name of the coin comes from, den aeres, 10 asses, meaning the sestertius also had a different proportional value, 2.5 asses. Keep this information on your head as it will be useful later as we look at one of our coins. Not in the original system, but added later on, a double denarius, called an Antoninianus, was also introduced, so it was worth 2 denarii, or 32 asses. And finally, for 25 denarii, or a whopping 100 asses, we had the aureus, the single most important gold coin the Romans struck, used for major transactions and as a store of value, of savings. These were the coins that were the most commonly struck by the mints, and were the ones in largest number in circulation. But as we will see now, you could find some special coins with different values. And since we have just mentioned the amazing gold aureus, we could start by having a look at its smaller brother, the quinarius aureus, which was basically half an aureus, weighing around 3.94 grams and was worth 12.5 denarii, or 50 asses. The gap between the denarius and the aureus was quite big, 25 coins to 1 is quite a lot. This was generally offset by the vast number of denarii struck, as Rome's economy relied primarily on silver. The quinarius also seems to have been issued as a donative. It was common practice for the emperor to practice liberalitas, literally meaning generosity, largesse, and there would be ceremonies where he would give away cash gifts to the people, to the Senate, and to the troops in Rome. Of course, this was a very expensive practice for the imperial coffers, and more, let's say, austere emperors preferred giving away gold quinarii instead of full aurei. What we have here is a lovely Quinarius aureus struck under the reign of Hadrian for his first elected successor, a man called Lucius Aelius, between 136 and 138 AD. Despite the small size of this coin, we can see that the dies were made in exquisite detail. On the obverse we can see this lovely bust of the Caesar, who would never become emperor due to his untimely death before Hadrian. The legends, as we can see, are rather simple: Lucius Aelius Caesar. Heading to the reverse, we have an image of Felicitas, the incarnation of happiness, holding a caduceus, the symbol of commerce, and a cornucopia, the mythological horn of abundance. And on the legends, we have the official positions in the imperial administration that Aelius occupied. That was of the tribunicia potestas, the power of a tribune, and consul duo, or consul for the second year. Overall, a small but marvelous coin. So after looking at a Quinarius aureus, how about we look at a normal Quinarius? The silver denarius also had its smaller brother worth half as much. So in this case, the quinarius was worth 8 asses. These were struck from the Republican period all the way to the Imperial period in the 2nd century AD. Quinarii were struck in small numbers in relation to its bigger brother, making them not necessarily rare, but definitely scarcer. Most quinarii were struck at Rome, but this really cool example was not. It was struck at the city of Emerita in the province of Lusitania, at the far west of the empire, to pay for the troops stationed there that finally pacified the Iberian Peninsula during the reign of Augustus. This particular piece, struck between 25 and 23 BC, weighs around 1.8 grams, what you would expect from half a denarius, and on the obverse features the bust of Augustus with some very simple legends, Augustus. Looking at the reverse, we have Victoria, the incarnation of victory, placing a wreath atop a military trophy, certainly celebrating the final conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, and the legends spell the name of the legatus, the official magistrate under Augustus that oversaw the minting of this coin. So we can read the Publius Caricius Legatus. Now, if you thought the quinarius was small, how about we look at half a quinarius, that is, a silver sestertius. Most of you know the sestertius as this big, impressive brass coin struck in the imperial period, generally a wonderful, heavy coin, but during the Republican period, the sestertius was a silver coin. These coins were made in small numbers back then. It was more profitable for the Romans to simply strike bronze asses and focus the silver they had on the quinarii and the denarii, but alas, a few of these tiny silver coins have survived to our days, but they tend to be quite rare. This particular coin is quite significant historically. Its minting date is attributed to 214 to 213 BC, meaning it was struck during the Second Punic War. Imagine this coin paying for the Roman troops waging war against Hannibal. Visually, it is quite similar to the denarius. We have on the obverse a bust of Roma wearing her winged helmet, but instead of the Roman numerals 10 you find on the denarius, meaning 10 asses, we see 2 and an S, meaning 2.5, as the sestertius was worth a quarter of a denarius. On the reverse, these coins are indistinguishable from the denarii. We have the galloping figure of Castor and Pollux, the divine twins of Roman mythology, and above them 2 stars. Under them, the word Roma. These are tiny and very light coins, weighing just a tiny bit over 1 gram. Leaving the precious metal denominations behind, we also find some rare small denominations in base metals too. The province of Syria in the Roman Far East was very important for the empire. It was one of the main administrative centers of the region. It housed the great city of Antioch, the empire's 3rd largest city, and it was the main base of operations against the Parthians. Prior to the Roman period, Antioch was a Greek city, and for centuries it struck coins in the Greek standard. That means drachma, tetradrachma, and its bronze fractions. But during the reign of Trajan, we find a number of coins attributed to Antioch that show remarkable similarity to those struck at Rome, from the style to the weight to the fact they had legends in Latin instead of Greek, the language spoken in the region. It is theorized that Trajan attempted to introduce a monetary standard in Syria similar to that of Rome, with smaller denominations similar to the quadrans, the semices, the asses, etc. But we then have this, an absolutely minuscule bronze coin that weighs half the weight of the quadrans, the smallest copper fraction minted at Rome, meaning this is likely a half quadrans, a unique denomination struck just for this region. Why they needed such a small denomination is hard to guess. The quadrans was low valued enough already and couldn't purchase much. If this was still a Greek denomination, this was probably a chalkos, the smallest coin of the Greek system. Weighing less than 1 gram, It shows on the obverse a remarkably good-looking bust of Trajan, considering how small the coin is. There's no space for any legends, so we only have the bust of the emperor. Looking at the reverse, we have a laurel wreath, with the letters SC, standing for Senato Consulto, meaning this coin was given value by decree of the Roman Senate. So now you know that if you want to make a full denomination set of Trajan, getting a quadrans of him is not enough. You also have to worry about a half quadrans as well. Now let's look at the end of the 3rd century AD, a time of economic crisis and rampant inflation. Let's go to the years 275 and 276, under the short reign of Emperor Tacitus. The denarius is dead, completely ruined by rampant inflation. The only coin that circulates in significant numbers is the Antoninianus, the double denarius, in its heavily debased form, now containing only 5% silver. The purity of the metal can be seen on the reverse of these coins. The Roman numerals 20 and 1 indicate that for every 20 parts of copper, these coins possess 1 part of silver. Tacitus, however, introduced the double Antoninianus, and as you can see by its better silvery aspect and by the different value mark on the reverse we will see shortly, it is a coin with 10% silver content. These coins are quite rare nowadays, for a very simple reason: they were a failure, being abandoned shortly after they were introduced. As you can see in this obverse, it is indistinguishable from a normal Antoninianus. It had the same size, the same design elements, and both would have had the same silvery appearance when they came out of the mint, making it very hard to distinguish one from the other. When we head to the reverse, the design elements are also exactly the same as the common Antoninianus. The only difference is that now, instead of a 20-to-1 mark, we have a 10-to-1 mark. It is a very reasonable proposition that, on a time of inflation where you had to use lots of coins to pay for everything, the Romans tried to introduce a coin with twice the value, reducing the number of coins they needed to mint. But we can clearly see the implementation of this idea was not well thought out. The two denominations are too similar, too prone to confusion, and the double Antoninianus was quickly abandoned, meaning the few that survive to our days are rare. Fortunately, they also do not command much of a premium. There's simply not enough collectors that care about these coins to pay an extra for them. Hell, I'm sure there must be someone out there who has a double Antoninianus in their collection and they just think it's a normal one. And finally, for the last rare denomination of this video, let's head to the late Empire in the early 4th century. This period was known as the Tetrarchies, when the empire was divided between 4 co-emperors. The senior of these emperors, Diocletian, came up with a complete redesign of the monetary standard. I won't enter much into details of this new monetary system, this will be for another video, but it introduced a new silver coin. Finally, after almost a century, a silver coin of high purity was leaving the mints, 90% pure in fact. It was called the Argenteus, literally silver coin, but there was a little problem in Diocletian's plan. The smaller denominations of this new system were greatly overvalued in relation to this new Argenteus, so this new coin was hoarded away extensively instead of circulating. This issue could be fixed in 2 ways. Either increase the value of the smaller denominations, which would be highly inflationary, or reduce the silver content of the Argenteus, bringing its nominal value more in line with the value of the quantity of precious metal it possessed. It seems like in 313 AD an attempt was made by Constantine the Great to make a new, debased Argenteus with less silver. This was a very limited experiment issued for 1 or 2 years in only one mint, Trier. The rarity of these coins today seem to indicate that this experiment failed and the Argenteus was simply discontinued. This example we have here was struck in the name of Constantine, but he also struck different designs for his co-emperors. On the obverse we can see this very elegant, cuirassed bust of the emperor, wearing a nicely decorated helmet and carrying a spear on his shoulder. The legends read, Imperator Constantinus Augustus, very straightforward. The reverse has this really nice depiction of two victories, holding a laurel wreath with a votive offering atop an altar. The legends are quite a mouthful for such a small coin. Victoria laetae principium perpetuae, vota populi Romani, which would roughly translate to the well-fortunate and long-lasting triumph of our emperors, and their vows to the Roman people. These legends certainly celebrate Constantine's victories over the contestants he had to face early in his reign. All in all, a very unique coin and another failed monetary experiment on the part of the Romans to try to combat the rampant inflation of the late empire. And there you have it, some very unique, different, and rare Roman coin denominations you don't really see very often. Did you know any of these denominations existed? Are there any other rare denominations you would like me to talk about in the future? Let us know in the comment section down below. As always, I hope you enjoyed this little episode. Leave a like and consider subscribing if you did. Happy collecting, and I'll see you soon.